Okay, so it's like 10 o'clock on a Saturday on a long weekend, and I wanted to talk around burnout and work overload, because those are a couple of topics that seem to be sort of like hitting me quite a lot at the moment. I feel like we ran into the Christmas and New Year period very hot. There was a lot of work. There was a lot of work going on. Like I had a trip to New South Wales, first interstate shoot, and that's friggin' awesome. And I'm so proud that I've like been able to hit that level. But what it meant was that I came back from that, and I still had a lot of stuff to do. And I kind of justified it to myself that, hey, look, you know, there's a lot going on at the moment. Like December just suddenly peaked in things going on. And therefore, because there was a lot going on, I'm just thinking like, oh, we're going to hit that Christmas, New Year period. And then, you know, it'll be fine and everything will be all right. But we're literally 3 weeks after Christmas and New Year, and it is still pretty full on at the moment. To kind of tackle that, I am looking at bringing someone in. We kind of got someone lined up a couple of days a week, and that'll be good. There's a part of me that when I start talking about bringing people in that panics, because I'm like, well, if work dips off, that's not fair to them, that they will, you know, something will potentially happen. But I think I've had someone before, and you know, they've been able to work for me for more than this sort of hours, so it shouldn't be any problem. I've also got enough stuff inside the business, not client work, inside the business, that I want to do anyway. So I'm probably, as usual, over panicking about that. But going back to the main topic of like overloaded, weirdly, Casey Neistat put a video out on this as well, and it kind of spurred on some additional thoughts. His was talking about sort of expectations of delivery, and I think for me there's a few different things when I talk around like being overworked, like because I've got client projects, like commercial projects that I need to get done, and that's definitely overworked. And then there's like a personal pressure of like personal projects, you know, the vlogs and things that I do, that I shoot, that kind of I want to do, but there's a internal pressure from that, and therefore even this morning I was intending to maybe edit some stuff, and I just like, nah, I'm not going to do that, because I've spent all week editing, and then on top of that just feeling the internal pressure of like, oh, I've got to make something, I really want to make something good. I think one thing that I've definitely identified within the business is around overworking is more. What I'm getting is a lot of clients who are like, where's my stuff? Where's my stuff? Where's my stuff? This is the deadline. Where's my stuff? And it's kind of my own creation. So when we sign a client, we don't typically talk about deadlines. And I did this very specifically because I wanted to make sure that we delivered, but we didn't hang ourselves out to dry. Clients are always very keen to have their products straight away. And so what I was worried about was really committing to a date that we then couldn't meet. And so what I was doing originally was literally editing like as quickly as possible, getting things out, and that was working fine. Obviously workload has increased, and now we can't necessarily do that. And so because we're not being upfront with people, they're chasing us, which then puts us on the back foot, because and then having to feel like the bad person by saying, no, it's not going to happen, or because of like my internal attitude to deliver, I will then like prioritize the stuff based on who's coming forward, and so that we're, you know, like, oh yeah, we'll get that done. Like they say, oh, can you have it done tomorrow? Oh yeah, we'll get it done. And like I'll then work to get it done, and that's causing the problem of overworking. So the solution itself is pretty simple. It's all really around setting expectations. Now, whilst that sounds simple, it's actually quite difficult because if you have clients and you go and have a meeting and they say, hey, look, we need to do a video and blah, 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 blah. Most of them are very primarily focused on the shoot date. You know, we've got to shoot this by, because say it's an event, so there's a deadline there of we must do it on this day. So you start looking at that. And even if you say to them, hey, look, we're really busy, we can fit the shoot in, but the edit may be delayed, we don't really give a date. The other technicality to this is that my projects aren't a set product. Like, we offer products, but most of our stuff is unset as a product. So as an example, you shoot in real estate, you shoot wedding, it's the same process every time. You are delivering the same thing. So therefore, you know that if you shoot on this date, you should be able to punch it out by this date. So you're going to set a deadline of a bit further on. For me, my projects are very much, we listen and tailor the stuff to the client. So therefore, each project is kind of different. And that causes the problems around what date to set. I think the other thing that I'm conscious of is when you say to a client, when they say, hey, what's the deadline date of this? You're very much thinking like, well, what do I need to answer to keep you happy? Because if I say that your product is going to be ready in 2 months, you're likely going to be like, oh, that's not good. And ultimately, I haven't said that because now we're not delivering in 2 months. We're delivering, well, it depends on the project. But ultimately, I don't want to have that conversation up front because I've always felt like that will be a barrier to people signing on. But the truth is, I think that conversation needs to happen because that's why we're having these issues about people saying like, oh, when can we get this? Can we have this now? When's it due? Blah, 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 blah. Now, what I have been working on is like a production schedule for people. I actually did a few other documents that are kind of like this to try and tackle some problems that we've been having within the business. So I created a document about basically relationships and how we're going to work together. To be honest, I haven't actually sent that out to anyone yet, but that was really into combat people. The way that they deal with people can be quite rude sometimes, but also simple things like phoning and texting, late at night or on the weekends when you're trying to have a rest. Like, it's the business that I work in is quite interesting. It's difficult as well because people work at different times. So, as an example, I'll have office workers who will deal with the Monday to Friday 9 to 5, but say you work in fitness, you'd have the weekends as well. And then say that you're a startup business, this might be a second career path for you. You're probably going to work in the weekends, in the evenings and weekends. So effectively, I can work like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but that's not something I want to do because I'm worried about burnout. So yeah, I've developed these documents, and I guess this production schedule is part of that. And what I'm trying to do is write them in a way that it doesn't add more paperwork. So I have to write a quote and a scope and all that sort of stuff and budgets for people. And I'm trying not to write, when these are low cost projects, I'm trying not to write them like hundreds of bits of paper that I have to push out, because ultimately what happens is like, either I have to take a hit on the amount of time that I'm putting into projects, i.e. I'm going to take the cost on, or I have to bill higher, which again, the clients will be like, more money, and they don't see the value. They don't understand that to write a script, a quote, do any billing paperwork and stuff like that takes time, especially if you've got to chase that sort of stuff like invoices. It takes time out of your day, and therefore that needs to be accounted and billed somewhere. So yeah, anyway, I've probably waffled on about this stuff way too much as usual. I guess the summary, if you've got this far in the video, I don't know why I keep addressing people, because really these videos are designed for me, but I know that other people watch them. Anyway, I think the summary for me is 1, having somebody on board is really going to help, and 2, I need to manage clients' expectations a lot earlier in the project to say, hey, what is your deadline? And what is our expected deadline? Because there's a lot of work that goes into projects, and we need to get clients to understand that to get a quality product, then we need to, invest the time. And we're not talking about a lot, but again, I think this is about if I confidently approach people and say, yep, absolutely, this is what we do and this is how long it's going to take, then we're being clear in our communication, clear in our expectation, and that should ultimately help them and me. Anyway, end of this video. If you are watching, thank you very much for tuning in. Hopefully I've got a bit of a different setup for this video, so I'm hoping as ever that I can sit down a bit more regularly and punch these sort of topics out as to what I'm just kind of going through at this particular point in time. And they're good to look back on for me, but hopefully they're useful for someone else at some point as well. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.